Chelsea spent billions building the youngest squad in the Premier League. Then, in the space of 3 days this month, they signed a 35-year-old and a 36-year-old. 3 days. And the man who begged them to do exactly that? He's gone. He walked out of Stamford Bridge on December the 30th, refused to speak to the press, and never collected a penny of severance. Enzo Maresca asked for grown men in that dressing room. The board said no. 8 months later, Alonso took over and gradually set about reshaping the squad. So what changed between January and August, and why did it cost one manager his job to prove the other one, right? That's the question. And the answer is uglier than the transfer gossip suggests. Start with the number that explains everything. 23.4 years. That was the average age of Chelsea's squad across the 2025-2026 season, the youngest in the entire league. Not youngest in the top 6. Youngest, full stop. That was policy, not accident. Buy them at 20, tie them down forever, sell them at a profit, repeat. And for a while, it looked like genius. Maresca had been appointed on June 3rd, 2024, 5-year contract, a coach nobody outside of Leicester circles rated. Then on July 13th, 2025, at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, his babyface Chelsea side took Paris Saint-Germain apart 3-0 in the Club World Cup final. 3-0. Against the best team in Europe. In a final. That trophy bought the youth project about 4 months of silence. Then December arrived. December 3rd, 2025. Leeds United beat Chelsea 3-1, and the alarm didn't come from the scoreline. It came from how it happened. Chelsea lost control of a football match, and nobody on that pitch knew how to stop it. No shouting. No one dragging the line back. No one grabbing a teammate by the shirt and telling him to calm down. 11 talented kids drowning in real time, and the bench watching it happen. The media pounced immediately. Where are the leaders? Who talks in there? A squad that cost more than most nations' clubs, yet lacked the vocal leadership needed when under pressure. Nothing. And behind closed doors, head coach Maresca had already reached the same conclusion. He went to the hierarchy that December and requested defensive reinforcements after injury struck. Not one, several. Voices. Adults. So how did the club respond? By keeping the plan. In the post-match press conference following the Leeds defeat, Maresca stood in front of the cameras and did something extraordinary. He defended the youth policy by throwing his oldest player under the bus. His words, "Who was the oldest player for us on the pitch? Tosin. Did he play well?" So, it's not about experience. Tosin Adarabioyo. Named. Publicly. As proof that age doesn't fix anything. Except that same manager was in meetings arguing the exact opposite. Publicly, he sold the project. Privately, he was pleading for veterans. Why? Because that's what happens when a coach is handed a philosophy he no longer believes in and told to keep smiling about it. He becomes the spokesman for a plan he's trying to kill from the inside. And once you notice that gap between what he said on camera and what he asked for behind the door, the whole collapse makes sense. So how does a club spend billions and end up with nobody who can lead a huddle? Subscribe to this channel, because these decisions show you how modern football clubs really run a transfer window. The board didn't budge. And a coach who has lost that argument in December is a coach who has already left in his head. December 30th, 2025. Chelsea draw 2-2 with Bournemouth. Another lead surrendered. Another game where nobody grabbed the tempo. What Maresca did next tells you everything about how far gone it was. He skipped his post-match press duties. Just refused. He got changed and left the stadium without speaking to anyone, before informing the club through his representative that he wanted out. New Year's Day. Not a resignation letter drafted by lawyers over 6 weeks. A man in a corridor saying he was finished. And the reason relations had collapsed wasn't only the transfer fight. Maresca had been holding talks about succeeding Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. Chelsea found out. On January 1st, 2026, they officially parted company. Read the record he left behind. 92 competitive matches, 55 wins, 16 draws, 21 defeats, and a world title. That is not a failing manager. That is a manager depicted in this speculative scenario who won more than half his games. He forfeited it. He wanted out that badly. Think about the arrogance required on the club's side of that table. Backs it with a fictional defeat at Leeds and a blown lead against Bournemouth. A him problem, not a squad problem. Liam Rosenior took the job on January 6th, 2026. Fresh voice, 5 days after the old one vanished. Same squad, same average age. Same silence when things went wrong. And you already know how that ended. 10th. Chelsea finished 10th in the Premier League. The reigning Club World Cup champions, the most expensively assembled young squad on the planet, finished 10th in their own domestic league. No European nights, no title race. 10th. That number is the receipt for the argument the board won in December. Because when a manager tells you the room has no leaders and you overrule him, you're not saving money. You're betting the season on the hope that 22-year-olds figure out leadership on their own, in public, under the most hostile spotlight in world football. They didn't. They finished 10th. And the man who predicted it was already in a different building. If this is landing, hit like. It genuinely helps push this in front of more people who've been arguing about Chelsea's squad building for 2 years straight. May 17th, 2026. Chelsea announced Xabi Alonso, starting July 1st. And the difference in how he handled the first week is almost comical. Maresca fought the board and lost. Alonso started somewhere else entirely, the actual building. He arrived in July and joined an informal staff match. Played in it. Created most of the goals on the winning side. Then stayed and mixed with ordinary club employees, the people who work there every day and never get spoken to by the manager. Small thing? It wasn't. Chelsea's culture had been tested by grueling preseason travel commitments. You don't repair that with a tactical presentation. Pochettino understood that the dressing room was a social problem before it was a formation problem. And once he'd established that, he went to the hierarchy with the same request Pochettino had made. Signings with mileage. Signings with medals. Signings old enough to tell a 19-year-old to shut up and hold his position. However, the board refused to budge on their policy, which raises an obvious question. What was different about the messenger? The first target wasn't a headline name. July 2026. Chelsea moved for Granit Xhaka, 33 years old, captain of Switzerland, playing for Sunderland. A midfielder built entirely out of the thing Chelsea lacked: noise, organization, and the willingness to be unpopular in the middle of a match. Personal terms were verbally agreed. Xhaka wanted it, and Sunderland killed it. Flat no. They blocked the transfer because Chelsea's bid came in too low, and because Chelsea couldn't offer him European football. Sit with that second part. Sunderland turned down Chelsea because the offer was insultingly low for their club captain. That's where 10th place gets you. That's the cost of winning the argument in December 2025. Your negotiating power evaporates, and clubs you used to bully start telling you your money isn't enough and your competition isn't attractive. So Alonso adjusted his strategy, seeking experienced veterans in their 30s to balance the squad, to the free market and to the Premier League itself. August 1st, 2026. Danny Welbeck signs from Brighton and Hove Albion, 35 years old, 2-year contract. A striker who has been in this league since before half of Chelsea's squad started secondary school. August 3rd, 2026. Jordan Henderson arrives from Brentford, free transfer. 36 years old. A former Premier League and Champions League winning captain walking into the youngest dressing room in England for nothing, 2 days apart. Combined age 71. Total transfer fee for one of them, 0. And here is the detail that should embarrass everyone who defended the youth-only rule. Chelsea's net spend in the summer of 2026 came to over £200 million. 200 million. And the two signings most likely to change how that team behaves at Nuff Nut in the 65th minute cost almost nothing by comparison. One free. One veteran forward from a mid-table rival. The problem was never the budget, it was the ideology. On August 6th, 2026, Tosin Incident gave an interview about the new arrivals. He called them uncles, joked about it, and then admitted something that should make the board wince. Their presence immediately filled a silent leadership void in the dressing room. Immediately. Not after a betting-in period. Not after a tactical cycle. 2 men in their mid-30s walked in, and the room changed. And remember who Tosin is in this story. He's a player who brought Premier League experience to the squad. Later, discussions around squad leadership and experience continued to evolve. That's the loop closing. That's the answer to the question from the start of this video. Tactical changes were introduced between January and August. The idea didn't get better. The idea was always right. What changed was who was allowed to say it out loud and survive. August 9th, 2026. Chelsea drew 3-3 with Johor Darul Ta'zim, the Malaysian champions, in a pre-season friendly. 3-3. In a warm-up game. Against opposition, nobody in London had circled on a calendar. So no, the veterans aren't a magic switch. Alonso is still rebuilding a shape, still working out who plays where, still coaching a squad that spent a full season learning bad habits and finishing 10th. A drawn friendly in Asia doesn't undo any of that. But the direction is finally honest. Chelsea spent 2 years insisting that a squad averaging 23.3 years old could win the biggest prizes on character alone, and they had one glorious night in New Jersey to wave around as evidence. One night. Then the league table told them the truth over 38 games. The bitter part isn't that managers change their mind. Clubs change their mind. The bitter part is the price of the lesson. A coach with 55 wins and a world title walked out of the building without his money because nobody upstairs would admit he was right about a dressing room he stood in every single day. He asked in December. They said no. He resigned. They finished 10th. Then they did exactly what he asked, for a manager who asked more politely. Chelsea didn't discover the value of experience in August 2026. No manager gave Chelsea FC such an ultimatum or advice in December 2025. If any of that hit you, like and subscribe. There's a lot more to unpack in how this squad gets rebuilt from here.